Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first episode of The Alex James Show. I'm your host, Alex James, where the line between truth and fiction gets thinner by the day, and only you can be the judge. We've all heard the rumors surrounding the Epstein files, tens of thousands of documents, hundreds of names, most of them redacted. Most of it, noise. It's a distraction. However, history does repeat itself. Back in 1998, just 3 days after Clinton testified before a grand jury related to the Lewinsky sex scandal, he began Operation Infinite Reach, executing strikes in both Sudan and Afghanistan. Critics accused Clinton of using military action as a distraction, referencing the movie Wag the Dog, which had ironically enough come out months earlier, depicting the president manufacturing a foreign conflict to distract from a sex scandal. Sound familiar? Fast forward to 2026. High-ranking officials begin to be implicated in the Epstein files. Then boom, Wag the Dog. America attacks Iran and the media shifts coverage overnight. The files are out there, but the public demanded transparency, and transparency is not what the public received. Half of the names are redacted, and not to protect the victim, to protect the culprit. The protection of children is not a partisan issue, yet it has become one. And in this partisan quest, a lot of vital information has been overlooked, intentionally or not. When digging through these files, I came across a piece of information that means absolutely nothing, or maybe it means a lot more than it should. Sometimes you find something better than a name. You find a timeline, and guess what, folks? Timelines, they don't lie as easily. Before we dive down the rabbit hole, let's begin with the headlines, or as I call them, the fluff pieces. Tensions continue to escalate with Iran. Recently, the U.S. and China had high-level discussions regarding their joint concerns over the reopening of the Strait. This isn't just a regional conflict anymore. This has become a fight over one of the most important economic arteries on Earth. The battlefield isn't just over territory. It's become a strategic infrastructure and economic play. With the supply chain damaged, average Americans are paying the price. At the pump, at the grocery store, you name it, the American taxpayer is footing the bill for this war. So far, this war has proven one thing. It's exposing how heavily dependent the global system is based on a few critical choke points. Europe has even increased military readiness in the region. Gee, thanks, you're going to let us use our own air bases? How many wars have we bailed you pussies out of? Anyways, well, we kind of started this one. As of now, the talks with Iran are lukewarm. The U.S. naval blockade remains in full effect. Normally, roughly 20% of the world's oil supply moves through the strait. So, the poor economic conditions at home are in direct correlation to the disruption in the strait. Average Americans are paying the price for this war. And depending on who you believe, the situation is either under complete control or secretly turning into something much bigger. I'm going to let you be the judge. I'm not going to sit here and say the tensions with Iran haven't been rising for some time, because they have. But again, it's the way that the information is being presented and the timing of it all that's rather suspicious. We've seen this pattern before in 2001. The similarity isn't even the event itself. It's the atmosphere, the language, the escalation logic. It's the idea that instability somewhere else can justify major structural changes everywhere else. Remember the Patriot Act? While all of this is happening overseas, things have gotten shaken up back home quite a bit. Pam Bondi gets fired right as she's expected to testify before Congress in relation to the Epstein files. And just like that, she's now a private citizen. She's not legally obligated to testify before Congress, and more importantly, she can plead the fifth. I'm not saying that was the plan, but the timing sure does Bondi a lot of favors. And who steps in to fill old Bondi's shoes? None other than Todd Blanche, former Trump criminal defense attorney. Blanche was reportedly a registered Democrat until 2024, before switching to the Republican Party, all while becoming one of Trump's top legal defense attorneys. Now, Blanche has stepped into one of the most powerful legal roles in the country, but hey, I'm sure that was just a coincidence too. After all, people do change political affiliations, but when you start stacking details like that, it is easy to raise an eyebrow. Now, here's where things get interesting. Not only has Blanche stepped into one of the most powerful legal roles in the country, he's been very quick to dismiss any theories surrounding the Epstein files. Dismissing theories that Epstein could be alive or that a body double might have been used, calling such claims bonkers. But you know what's really bonkers, Mr. Blanche? Letting known criminals walk the streets. The public has seen enough strange, unresolved occurrences over the years, and they're not crazy for asking questions anymore. In fact, you're crazy for gaslighting the public. And all parties are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. And I myself am not accusing anybody of any wrongdoing. I am not accusing anybody of any crimes. Let's make that clear. Enter the rabbit hole, aka the speculation zone. There's parts of the internet that won't let this story go, and for good reason. It's the idea that there are patterns, coded language, repeated phrases, and too many connections across too many different cases that align with certain theories. Some people think it means nothing, others say it's total nonsense. But this is where freedom of thought comes into play. Take the red pill or the blue pill. And for most, reality is too much to bear, let alone comprehend the magnitude of lies they've been told throughout their lives. But the reason this topic in particular keeps coming back is because people see just enough overlap to stay curious. What's not speculative is how many worlds Epstein managed to move through. Finance, politics, science, entertainment. There are records of interactions with all kinds of public figures. Some of the notable names include Bill Gates, Les Wexner, Peter Thiel, George Stephanopoulos, Bill Clinton, Woody Allen, and even Donald Trump. The list is extensive, but the important distinction to make here is that Epstein himself was an intelligent asset. For whom he worked for, we may never know. Wink, wink. And Epstein's goal was simple: infiltrating and implicating as many high-ranking individuals across all sectors as possible in order to create a blackmail ring to serve as handlers. All of these interactions with all of these public figures, and they all say the same thing: I had no knowledge of any criminal activity or wrongdoing. Once I discovered his criminal convictions, I severed all ties. It's the same speech, it's a different creep. Maybe I'm cynical, or maybe that's just the way I'm trained to be. Or maybe it's just the safest thing to say after the fact. I know one thing's for sure. A whole lot of people are able to sleep a lot better at night after their star witness killed himself in prison. Now this is where things shift from theory and conjecture to something a little more grounded. I call it the Steve Bannon timeline. I came across a conversation part of the Epstein document dump, a conversation that repeatedly references SB, or Steve Bannon. You see SB throughout the messages. These emails reference travel coordination, meetings, media appearances, and normally this is where I'd stop, because names, they don't really mean a hell of a lot. But one line in particular does stand out: doing CNBC Squawk Box, 6:30 a.m. So I checked it out. On March 29th, 2019, sure enough, Steve Bannon appears on CNBC Squawk Box. Same day, same time frame. And that's anchored in reality. It's no longer a frivolous email. It is a link that further cements their connection. Then you start layering the details. Rome, political meetings, references to the League. All of this lines up with Bannon's known involvement with European nationalist groups at the time. And then there's this line: is it possible to get your plane here to collect me? Sent from Epstein to SB. SB replies, my security guard will be leaving me after Paris. In the same chain, Epstein sends a photo of himself with someone who is presumed to be in the French government. Caption, just us two in the entire place. French power. Bannon replied, power move. SBS, if we can arrange it, can we film on the island? Now, this could be referencing the interview that Bannon conducted with Epstein in 2018 before his death in a desperate attempt to rebrand Epstein's public image. Now pause, because this isn't so vague anymore. This is where coincidence starts turning into a pattern. So, how do we look at something like this? There are levels: coincidence, pattern, signal, random overlap, multiple alignments, and confirmed reality. This sits somewhere in the middle, and at a certain point, you stop ignoring the warning signs and you start paying attention. As they say, the devil's in the details. You start paying attention because at that level, politics, media, finance, they all become the same circle. It's the same people, it's the same planes, it's the same events. You're not bumping into people, you're orbiting the same system. Here's where I land. Don't ignore patterns, but don't overstate conclusions. Stay curious, but remain disciplined. Because if the timeline fits, you don't jump to conclusions. You pay attention to the minutia, because that's how patterns become signals. And signals, they're a lot harder to ignore. Thank you for tuning in to the first episode of The Alex James Show. I got a lot more to come. Stay tuned. Over and out.